In this video, I want to discuss the top for sale by owner objections. I'm going to go one by one what the objection is. If you guys are actually making for sale by owner calls, you're going to be very familiar with these objections in whatever market you are. I'm going to list them one by one, and I'm going to show you guys at least 2 different ways to handle each and every single objection. Watch till the end, guys, because every objection is crucially important, and having at least 2, 3, 4 different ways and frameworks to handle each and every one of these objections is going to highly increase your conversion rate. So number one, guys, most common one when we start the phone call is, are you a realtor? I'm not going to really highlight here because this is just like my cheat sheet to remember them. But number one is, are you a realtor, guys? This is not really an objection. It's just a smoke screen. Say, hey, look, John, yeah, 100% I am an agent. I know you've gotten a bunch of calls. I know you've probably talked to a bunch of agents. It sounds like you don't want to work with anybody and you don't want to pay commission. But let me ask you, if there was a way that I actually did find you a client that had an offer, price, and terms that made sense to you, even after all the costs, is that something you'd be totally against at this point, right? Notice that I didn't stutter or stop and say, hey, John, yeah, I am a realtor. I am with XYZ company and we do X, Y, and Z and ABC. I didn't bring that into the conversation. I said, hey, John, yeah, look, I am a realtor. And then I brought his guard and I said, look, I know you've probably gotten a lot of calls, man, and I'm not going to be too long. I'll be very brief. I know you don't want to pay any commissions and you have selling this property on your own in mind. And that's the main objective right now in preserving the equity of the home. And let me ask you this. If I brought you a client, price and terms that had an offer that even after all the costs still put an amount of money in your pocket that was comfortable with you, is that an idea you'd be totally against, right? Notice those words, an idea you'd be totally against. Is that an idea that you'd be completely opposed to? I'm just giving you guys a couple different ways to verbiage it. But the whole point of that conversation is to transition right back into the main idea. Are you open to working with an agent? And are you willing to understand that your bottom line is preserving equity and making more money, right? So let's run another one, right? Hey, Alexis, are you a realtor? Hey, John, look, I am an agent. By the looks of it and the sound of it, you know, you asking that question, it sounds like you've probably gotten a bunch of calls from other agents. It sounds like you might not be open to working with somebody. I completely understand. I'm looking at your home here on 5th Street. It looks very beautiful. I know you've updated the roof, you've updated the flooring, and you've probably done a lot on your end to preserve the equity. So by all means, I don't want to sound like just every other agent. I just wanted to quickly ask you, John, if I did bring you a buyer that had an offer with price and terms that made sense to you and your family, is that an option you guys are totally against at this point? Notice the tone, notice the terminology, the verbiage that I'm using. It's very non-aggressive, and it's going to help them say, hey, look, yeah, man, at the end of the day, I'm just looking to sell the home for the most amount of money. If you present it that way, it's very difficult for the seller to completely shut you down. If they shut you down again, say, hey, look, again, I get it. You've done so much to preserve this home. You have no information on your end at this point from what you're telling me that suggests that a realtor is going to be a better option. So I get it. I wouldn't have, this is a line that I use a lot. I wouldn't have called you on this home to have this conversation with you if I didn't think that there was a real possibility for me to bring a buyer to this home. I just want to know a little bit more. If I did bring you that buyer, and we transition right into the qualifying question, if I did bring you that buyer, what does this closing process even look like to know whether or not I can actually even help you, right? So that's, are you a realtor? Number 2, I'm only looking for cash buyers, right? Again, that is a smoke screen. What is read between the lines? Like I always say, guys, read between the lines. I'm only looking for cash buyers means in their head, they think that a cash buyer is going to be easier and it's going to bring them more money. So, hey, John, 100%. I mean, at the end of the day, it sounds like you've done a lot to preserve the equity in this home. I see here that you've had this home for 4 years. It's a beautiful home, by the way. I love everything you've done to it. Let me ask you, the reason being that you're only accepting cash, is there a specific reason behind that? Is there a restriction on the property that would not allow for financing, or is there something else behind only wanting cash, right? We're trying to get to the real reason, because the point I make is usually when you have a higher offer, it's a financed offer. Usually cash offers are less, right? Investors usually offer cash offers and they want to buy at lower than market value. So instead of saying that directly, we kind of want to ask them like, hey, John, I see you've done so much to this home. Is there a specific reason or restriction that this home has that doesn't allow for financing? And that's just going to bring up the reasons, or he's just going to most likely say, hey, look, I just want cash. I don't want financing. I don't want anything to do with the bank. And that signifies that this person is inexperienced and hasn't done this before. So instead of being combative and saying, hey, look, John, this is the right way to do it, I recommend you do X, Y, and Z, you say, hey, look, John, I completely understand, man. And again, my only job here today is to figure out whether or not I can bring you value and help you sell this home and preserve the equity you've built in this house. So let me ask you, and then go into more qualifying questions. But all you want to do here with I'm only looking for cash buyers is read between the lines. All John is saying is, I want to make the most amount of money. I want to preserve my equity. And I think that getting a cash buyer right now is the only way that's going to happen for me. Okay, number 3, I'm already going to list with someone, but at 4%. Hey, John, so I'm glad that you already have someone in mind. Obviously, this transaction is one of the biggest transactions in your life. I don't know much about your real estate background. I don't know how many deals you've done, but obviously, from the looks of it, most people that sell for sale by owner, they do so to preserve equity and put the most amount of money in their pocket. Is that right? Is that what you're trying to accomplish here? If you guys have noticed a trending topic with how I handle objections in my community calls, in all my videos, I'm trying to revert back to their objective and tie them down to a yes, this is what I want to do. I want to make more money, so that I can tie them down again and say, if I were to able to do XYZ and bring you ABC, is that something you'd be against? That's the framework, right? Tie them down to saying, yes, I want to make more money, and then say, if I brought you XYZ, price and terms, that led you to ABC, selling and making more money, are you completely against that idea? That is the entire framework in a snippet. So when they say, I'm already going to list with someone, but at 4%, we want to say something like, hey, look, John, 100%. It sounds like you've done your homework and you already have a plan B. Let me ask you this. At this point, would you say that you were 100% committed to that agent, even if you met with someone else that made you feel that they can actually bring you a better result on this home? I'm going to compare the financials now. I'm going to say, hey, look, John, first of all, you want to ask if they have a listing agreement signed, right? If they have a listing agreement signed, they're not fair game. They're already signed with another person. On to the next. If they don't, hey, look, John, do you already have an agreement signed with that person? The only reason why I ask, it sounds like and it looks like you want to preserve the most amount of equity on this home. So just hypothetically speaking, let me ask you this. At this point, like if you met with someone that completely blew your mind with the way they sell homes and made you feel confident that they could actually bring you a much better overall result with this property, is that an idea you're completely against exploring at this point? That's exactly how we're going to handle that one, guys. We're going to tie them down to what I just told you and then lead them to say, if I did ABC and brought you XYZ, is that something you're completely against? Okay, let's go to, this is gonna be a little bit longer video, guys, but I want to make sure we work through all these objections. Okay, how much do you charge? Let's say you get to a point in the conversation where you're doing good, you're engaging them on the call, and they lean in and they say, how much do you charge? The rookie agent says, well, John, you know, we're flexible on the commission. The commission's negotiable. We can lower the commission for you. That is a rookie mistake. Or saying, oh, we charge 5% or 4%. That is a rookie mistake. When John says, how much do you charge? We'll say, hey, John, look, first and foremost, I'd love to break this down for you and give you the entire idea of our pricing, commission strategy, and how that puts more money in your pocket. Let me ask you this first. If I were able to present that to you in a way that made sense and you were actually comfortable with it and you wanted to move forward with it, would you say you're ready to make a decision right now on the phone about whether you can work with me or not? John's probably gonna say, no, I can't. So John, here's what I love to do. I don't wanna just tell you something over the phone that's not gonna make 100% sense. I wanna meet you in person, shake your hand, look at the property, and figure out whether or not it even makes sense for us to discuss the compensation plan. Is that fair? I'm gonna be in the area and then you go into the closing line. That is one way to handle how much you charge. Another way could be, hey, John, look, at the end of the day, I know you obviously wanna focus on the commission, and at the end of the day, it seems like if you pay more commission, you're gonna net less money. Let me ask you this question just to make sure that we understand each other and we're on the same page. Would you say that commission aside, your main objective here is to make the most amount of money net from this transaction? Yes. John, so all I wanna do is present to you in person when we meet my flexible compensation strategy. The strategy I've created puts you in a position where there's flexible commissions depending on what we bring to the table and what the offer is structured like. That way we ensure we bring you the most amount of money. Would something like Monday or Tuesday work better? And then boom, get into the closing line, okay? That's a couple ways how to handle that one, guys. Let's go into another one where they lean in. And by the way, if you notice that when we've talked about this in other videos, when the client leans in, instead of leaning in with them and saying, yeah, we do X, Y, and Z, like I mentioned earlier, we want to lean out. Hey, John, look, first and foremost, before we even break that down, I'm not 100% sure that we could even help you out yet. So I wouldn't want to break down this entire strategy for you without knowing whether or not it makes sense. Let me ask you a qualifying question if you haven't qualified yet, okay? I just wanted to mention that real quick. How much would you list the property for? So, hey, Alexis, look, man, it kind of sounds great. You know, if you were to work for us, how much would you list the property for? Instead of taking the bait over the phone, remember the whole point of the phone call is to get a qualified appointment. Instead of taking the bait over the phone and saying, hey, well, John, you know, I think based on my research that you haven't done, I'd list the property for $750. You're going to give John false information. He's going to say, okay, $750. And now he's going to call the next realtor and ask them how much they'd list the property for. And they're going to bargain until they feel like they have the best option, which is lower commission, higher listing price, okay? What you're going to say is, hey, John, let me ask you a question before I even break that pricing strategy down for you. I'm going to be transparent with you. I gave you a call to figure out whether or not it even makes sense for us to keep talking. I have not done a full analysis on this home. I wouldn't want to give you a number that doesn't make sense or that I haven't really researched into yet. Let me ask you first and foremost, if I did even have that number and I broke it down to you, are you completely against the idea of working with an agent at this point, right? You can just shift the conversation back to further qualifying the prospect and setting the appointment. What you're going to do is say, hey, John, I'd love to break down this pricing strategy for you. This is not a decision that we're capable of making over the phone. Would you agree? Obviously, he's going to agree. There's different ways to word that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be in the area and then you go into a closing line. But you don't want to answer that question. You want to say, hey, John, look, I haven't done enough research. I'm going to be transparent with you. I'm not going to give you a random number over the phone. This is by far one of the biggest transactions of every average person that sells a home. Would you agree that me doing some research, giving you a call back, giving you an estimate of what I think we can get for it, and then setting an in-person meeting where I walk you through the pricing strategy and I break down to you what I'm seeing in this neighborhood, would you agree that that makes the most sense? Yes, yes, yes. Set the appointment. On to the next, okay? Let's go on to the next one. I need to speak to my husband or wife before I confirm an appointment. Hey, John, agree and acknowledge, right? Objection handling framework. John, 100% I agree with you. By the way, I want to let you know this up front. I'm not someone that wants to make an impulse decision, whether I bring you an offer, whether we're going to list together. If both parties or all parties are not on board, I do not want to proceed. Real estate is a process, not an event, okay? You agreed, acknowledged, brought his guard down. Let me ask you this, John, based on the conversation we've had, if you were to tell your wife about our meeting, right, that we potentially scheduled a tentative meeting where I brought you guys free information with no obligation and helped you guys get in a better position to sell your home, what do you think your wife would say about that, right? Walk them through what their spouse would say. In most cases, people would like to think that their spouse trusts their opinion. So, hey, John, here's what I want to do. No pressure at all. I know you're going to have to run this through your wife anyways. Let's go ahead and tentatively book an appointment on the calendar. That way I can just block off time. If you run this through your wife and she says, no, man, hey, I'm completely against the idea of having an experienced professional agent come and give us free advice. If that's what she says, call me back, text me, I'll cancel, no problem. But I don't want a spot to fill up. I think there's a really good opportunity that we can do business here. Let me know what your wife says in the next 24 hours. I'm going to book us in. Does something like Monday or Tuesday work better for you? Set the appointment. Make sure they feel free enough to cancel. What that's going to do is going to obligate them to actually talk to the spouse and say, hey, I talked to John. I talked to Alexis. He sounds like he's pretty good. He wants to meet with us on Monday or Tuesday. And then they might say, hey, look, spouse wanted to cancel. And then you go back in and try to handle the objection and get the appointment. But make sure, guys, that you don't say, hey, yeah, John, I'll give you a call back. Let me know what your wife says. There's no compromise there. Put something tentatively in the calendar. Make sure you walk them through what their spouse would say. Hey, John, based on our conversation, would you agree that there's at least a 5%, 10% chance that I could bring you some value? Because if the answer is no, I don't want to go to your house. Embrace that confidence and say, hey, John, if you think that this conversation was valuable and I can help you guys potentially put you in a better position to sell this home, what would your wife or husband say about that? Tie them down, tentative appointment, follow up, and then confirm the appointment, okay? By the way, if you guys have any questions or want me to elaborate or want me to add or might have missed something on any of these objections, guys, comment below on the school platform and let me know what you want to hear more of. We'll make a follow-up video, okay? Let's go into the next one. We will meet with you, but we want to interview with other agents. We will meet with you, but we want to interview other agents. What do most agents do? Hey, well, why do you want to do that? Why would you want to interview with other agents? Let me tell you this. I'm sure you're going to love working with us. I'm with eXp Realty. We are the #1 best company. I'm sure you're not going to need to interview other agents. Guys, that is horrible. They leaned in, lean out. Hey, look, John, I'm so happy you freaking said that. Usually when I meet with someone, I want them to meet with at least 4, 5, 6, 7 different professionals. That way, once we move forward, we're 100% moving forward and you are certain that I am the option to sell this home. Because let me tell you this, like I just said before, guys, real estate is a process, not an event. If I can't put in front of you a strategy that makes you and your wife feel 100,000% confident that I am the agent to work with, I don't want your business, John. Very respectful. So 100%, I want you to meet with other agents and I want you to see their opinion. At the end of the day, if you're not 100% confident with me, we're not doing business. Sound good? Confirm the appointment. And that approach is just going to raise your status to the roof. The technical way to do this, guys, is to either be the first agent up or the last agent up. You don't want to be sandwiched in the middle and have an appointment at 4, crush it, and then they have another appointment at 5:30 that they're obligated to take. You want to say, hey, look, let me ask you a question, John. Out of curiosity, do you already have the schedule mapped out of all these other agents and when you're going to interview them? And just try to go last, guys. Try to be the last one because it's going to be much higher conversion, much higher close rate, okay? Let's go into, let me think this over and I'll get back to you. Hey, look, Alexis, man, this call sounds great. I'm just not ready to meet with a realtor right now. Let me think this over and I'll get back to you. Hey, look, John, 100%, man. I know you've gotten so many calls. You're overwhelmed. It's hard to tell who's who on the phone. At the end of the day, let me just ask you this so I make sure we're on the same page and I can make a note of my CRM. If I did bring you an offer, price and terms that made sense today or tomorrow, are you guys actually truly ready to sell this home? Yeah, we are. We're ready to sell this home. We want to move. We want to do X, Y, and Z. We want to get to ABC. John, let's do this, man. Let's tentatively book an appointment in the calendar. I know you're overwhelmed. Look, it's impossible to tell who's who over the phone. All I want is 15 minutes of your time. I want to look at the home in person, shake your hand, look you in the eye, and figure out whether or not I can even help you and your family get to ABC. Okay, if there's a 5% opportunity in my heart that I can do ABC for you and I can get you to XYZ, I'm going to 100% pursue that. I know you're overwhelmed. I know you don't know me. Let's do this. Let's book an appointment, book the appointment. Say if anything changes, if your heart changes and you don't want to book this appointment or you don't want to sell the property, just shoot me a text and then go ahead and confirm the appointment, guys. Most of the time, this is going to work, guys. All you have to do is just freaking ask for the business, bring their guard down, put them back, and help them imagine selling XYZ and getting into ABC, and you'll get the freaking appointment, okay? We're freaking running through these objections, guys. Hey, Alexis, look, man, I have real estate experience. I don't need your help. I need to do this on my own. What do most people do? Hey, well, look, John, you're not a professional realtor. You can't sell this home on your own. You could probably sell it, but I can sell it for more. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. What you want to say is, again, framework, agreeing along. John, look, 100%. The fact that, by the way, the fact that you have real estate experience, if we were to ever work together in any kind of matter, it would make this transaction 100% times more easy. So the fact that you have experience, I love that. I love the fact that you're already experienced. You absolutely know what you're doing. Let me ask you this, John, just so I figure out whether or not there's even a possibility for us to do a deal here, because the only reason why I took time out of my day to call you was to figure out whether or not I can bring you a deal. If I brought you an offer that had price and terms and it made sense for you and your family and your investment that you're trying to make here, are you 100% totally against working with an agent just because you guys have experience, right? who we agreed, acknowledged, brought their tone down, brought their guard down, and then said, hey, if I brought you ABC with X, Y, and Z, just because you have experience, are you 100% against exploring that? Oh, so of course not. I'm not against exploring that. So, hey, John, let me ask you a direct question, because it sounds like you've done this before. Is the most important thing here for you, just so I understand, because you have experience and you could do this on your own, but there very well could be another agent out there that could bring you a better result. Is it more important for you to do this on your own because you have experience, or is it more important to make sure you bring the best financial result out of this transaction? And you're going to tie them down to an obvious financial question. So if there was a 5% chance that we could meet and I could actually bring you a better result, a 5% chance, is that something you'd be willing to explore to put an extra 30 or 40K in your pocket? Hypotheticals, guys, make sure you don't guarantee these things, but just say, hey, look, all I'm trying to do is put you in a mental framework where we imagine success. If there's an opportunity for that, the only reason why you got in your position to buy homes, sell homes, and make these kind of profits is because you thought big and you believed in yourself. Just like you believe in yourself, I believe in myself. And if there's a 10% chance that I can bring you X, Y, and Z, I think it's worth 10 or 15 minutes of our time. Would you agree? Now we're getting into creative objection handling around the same framework, guys, but notice the tonality, notice the passion, notice the creativity. We have to think outside the box, guys. These for sale by owners are getting called and drilled by 50, 60, 70 other agents. You don't have to say exactly what I'm saying in these videos, guys. You can get the framework, the ideology, and implement and create different strategies and ways to handle every single one of these objections, okay? I had a bad experience with an agent before, and actually, guys, we're gonna go ahead and pause this video right here, and we're gonna pick back up on a part 2, and we're gonna crank out because there's like 9 more objections, and I wanna make this consumable for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this first part of top for sale by owner objections. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns about any of these objections and how we handle them, comment down below. I'll see you guys right now in the next video on part 2.